From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Lech Lecha, a new relationship with God. If we want to understand what is new about the relationship with God, starting with Avraham, starting with Parshat Lech Lecha, we need to go back to the very beginning of Breshit, the beginning of Genesis, the beginning of creation. There we find that there are two chapters that describe our relationship with God. And there we find that we exist with God in two planes, two realms, two aspects of our existence. In the first chapter, we're told simply, be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over the animals. But if we ask, what is our moral relationship to God? What are our responsibilities morally and ethically? It was more intuitive. There were no commandments in chapter 1 of Genesis. Our relationship with God is an intuitive one to do the right thing. In chapter 2, God adds a relational aspect, that we relate to God in as much as He allows us and gifts us with Mikol Eitz Hagan Achol Tochel. You may eat of all of the fruit of the garden. However, Adat Tov Hara, from the tree of knowledge, good and evil, we may not eat. Lo tochlu mimenu, pen timutun, you cannot eat from that. We have a relationship with God. We have morals, things that are right and wrong. Not much, but there's one rule, and that is enough to establish a relationship with God around the question of what is right and what is wrong. So we have then two planes of existence described in chapter 1 and chapter 2. However, when the people are chased out from the Garden of Eden, where are we then? We go back to the first chapter. We go back to a place where there are no rules. There are no fruit which we must eat or we must not eat. We live in an intuitive relationship with God. Lest you think that we have no moral responsibility during that period, in fact, Cain is punished for his killing of Abel. In fact, the entire humanity is wiped out for the fact that they were immoral, that they were violent. As Chizkuni asked the question, how could you punish the generation of the flood? Lo nitztavu mitzvot, they had no commandments. They weren't violating anything. And the answer is, Yesh kama mitzvot shechayavim b'nei adam l'shomran mikoach svarat hadat. There are many mitzvot which we are obligated to follow simply out of a sense of intuition, understanding from our own minds what is right and what is wrong. That was the era of Cain and Hevel and the generation before the flood. After the flood, our relationship with God changes. It goes from an intuitive relationship to a relationship. We have a covenant, a brit with God, a new covenant with God. But the covenant is negative. Lo yikarei kol basar. There will never be a flood again. The humanity will not be wiped out. And what we are to do is not to kill, not to steal, not to commit immorality. These are the laws of Noah, our new negative relationship with God. When we turn to Avraham, things are totally different. We return, in a sense, to that relationship with God that we had in the very first chapter. We continue the relationship of Noah, but this time it's much deeper. This time it's not just follow these commandments, don't do these things, and then I will not destroy you. But this time it's positive. Go to the land which I will show you. Go to the land of Israel. And with that, I will bless you. I will give you the land of Israel. It's a positive relationship. It's a personal relationship. And it involves something that we need to do. However, if you ask, what are the instructions, the moral guidance, that remains in the realm of the intuitive. Even in the days of Avraham, the actual mitzvot and commandments of what to do remains in the realm of the intuitive. And it wasn't until Sinai that as a Jewish people, we have a specific relationship with God around do's and don'ts of commandments. If we look also at the realm of gifting, the way God gives us things, in the first chapter of Genesis, God gave us the world in a natural way. But in the second chapter, God placed us gently with His own hands, so to speak, in the Garden of Eden. He gave us mikol eitz hagan achol tochel. There was a relationship in that giving. God gave us the world as a personal gift. But as they're chased out of the Garden of Eden, they live a more natural existence in which we simply live in God's gift, but we're not gifted anything particular. It comes to Avraham, once again, we are gifted with a place of where we live, with something, a positive place where we're given as a gift, like the Garden of Eden. We've returned to that Garden of Eden. If we look also at the realm of the positive or negative commandments, in the Garden of Eden, there are positive and negative commandments. Don't eat this fruit, you may eat the other fruit. In the period before the flood, there were no commandments at all. In this period of Noah, there are negative commandments. And it's only with Abraham, the return of the positive commandment. Like in the Garden of Eden, do something, you do something. God gives us something positive, and we have to do something as well. There are then two realms of existence, two stages of existence, two planes on which we exist. One, the intuitive, that we need to understand that there are certain things we just simply must not do. And then God has gifted us with a second plane in which we exist, in which we are told specifically, as part of our covenant and our relationship with God, not to do the following. And then relationship takes a positive twist, where God gives us things that we should do. And with that, we take a positive action in having this relationship with God. We're not simply given things, but we're able to give back to God by taking our own initiative and our own action. How is Avraham, how is Parshat Lech Lecha, how is the birth of the Jewish nation a new stage in humanity and existence? It's continuation of the covenant of Noah, but it deepens that personal relationship, that it requires human activity. It's a personal relationship, and it's a positive relationship. What we not only should not do, but what we can do. That we can pass the tests of God and go to the land of Israel. It's a mitzvah. There are commandments we have, not just rational commandments, not to kill and not to steal, but also we go beyond the natural. We go beyond the intuitive. We go to a mitzvah, perhaps irrational mitzvah, to go to a particular land that God has commanded. And finally, not only are there negative commandments, but there are positive ones as well. We as human beings and as Jews live in these two realms. On the one hand, we are a part of the natural sense of things, the first chapter of Genesis, that we must simply procreate, have dominion over the world. But we try to return ourselves to the Garden of Eden, where there was a more personal relationship with God, to the land of Israel, where there was a more personal relationship with God. We understand what it means to live in the existence of Noah before the flood, where there was no moral guidance, but moral guidance needs to come from within. We are still living in that plane in the sense that we do need to have an intuitive sense of what is right and wrong. But we've been gifted with the Torah, with the covenant not only of Noah, but the covenant of Sinai and the covenant of Abraham, where we too understand what is right and what is wrong, not only from intuition, but lo asachein l'chol goy v'chol mishpatim bal yidaum. Hallelujah. We thank God that we were told and informed of these moral principles so that we can get them right, and that we know that which we intuit is correct. Blessed is God who has given us this opportunity to live on this deeper relational plane with God, not simply as the natural man who knows what is right and wrong, but a man who has a relationship with God and is told by God what is right and what is wrong. With this, we have opportunities not just to avoid moral pitfalls, but to do that which is right and good in the eyes of God. That's what's introduced in this parsha of Lech Lecha, and that's what's introduced with Avraham and the Jewish people, to have a personal, moral relationship with God and humanity. Thank you for joining us today here at the Anshe Sephardi Beth El congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee. I want to thank Jason Lefkowitz for making our presentation possible today. And feel free to email me at rabbijmf@gmail.com for any comments or questions. Thank you very much.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.